Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you haven't been here before. And if you haven't been here before, please subscribe to be part of the bilingual family, which is mostly me attempting to speak English. So today's video is quite an exciting one. Today we are doing a review of the Lisa Eldridge Vega eyeshadow palette. It took me a while to get this up. I was planning on actually posting this on Wednesday, but then life happened and there are a few very exciting things happening for me, but I will discuss that in a later, like maybe makeup therapy or like other shop my stash kind of video. But at the same time, it gave me some extra time to play with this palette, to get to know it a little bit more, and to really give you my complete thoughts instead of just like a first impressions, you know? So this is the Little palette that we are going to be discussing today. Why I chose this one, and the price and the details and the textures and everything will be discussed further down the line, so keep on watching to know everything about this little palette. So a little bit about the details about this palette. So like I said before, this palette is 59 euros, which is quite expensive for a 6-pan eyeshadow palette. I really like the packaging. As always, it looks very vintage inspired. I find her packaging just to be very unique. Everything about her, like just collections, are very vintage inspired to me. Like this gold is beautiful. Again, it has the little like L of Lisa with the kiss, and then these are like horizontal texture lines. On the back you have the shades and also like the type of texture that they are. So why did I decide to go with Vega? Now, the palette is quite pricey, as I said before, and for the price that I pay and for the amount of makeup palettes that I have in my collection, I was looking for something that is very unique but also very approachable for everyday makeup, because in Belgium it's not really customary to wear any kind of eyeshadow. Like what I'm wearing today would be considered like everyday glam in some countries, but in Belgium this is already like full-on glam. I wanted something that you could use every day and that I was actually going to use every day. The other palettes, like Muse for example, were pinky. I really loved the shades in Sorcery. I love the look of that palette, like green and blue shade shimmers, you know, give it to me. But I knew that for the price that I was going to pay, that I was not going to use them to the full extent. And I also wanted, like I said before, something that was easy to use, something that I just could throw it on. And Vega has like those cool and neutral tones that are just easy for everyday wear, and in the end I'm very happy with like the color story and the palette that I decided to go with. Even though I do have like my eye on some of the singles that she also has, they have individual singles. I talked a little bit about the textures, and in Vega there are 4 different textures. So you have seamless matte, a velvet, metallic, and luminous. In this palette I'm going to include some swatches. You have French Grey, which is a velvet, Smoke and Mirrors, which is a seamless matte, Moon Swirl, which is a metallic, Turbulence, which is again a seamless matte, Supernova, which is a luminous shade, and Lamp Black, which is a seamless matte. Now, I have tried this palette a couple of times ever since I got it. I think I got it in the beginning of this week, and I am filming this video when I am actually going to upload it, so this Sunday is when you're seeing this. This is a beautiful palette. I really like it. I do find that it is worth the price tag, even though it is very expensive for what it is. This is a very smoothing, very blendable eyeshadow formula, which is not going to give you any problems. Even the 2 darker shades in this palette, like the Lamp Black shade and the Smoke and Mirrors one, they are very difficult eyeshadow colors to get right and to make in a way that they're actually easy to work with. Like black is never ever easy to work with, but because they have like that seamless matte formula, that kind of low level of luminosity as she described it as, it is just very easy to blend and it doesn't give you any issues. Like the black shade is buildable instead of being full pigment at first. I've discovered numerous formulas and I discovered, you know, a preference in them, and I do go 2 ways. I do go buildable and easy to work with, and I do go like the full pigment route sometimes as well. If you're someone who's completely used to just having that full blown out powdery pigment at first punch. You're gonna have to get used to this palette a little bit because it does require a little bit of that building. But I think because of that, it's a very approachable palette for people who are new to makeup, who want to try something by Lisa Eldridge, who like that kind of sophisticated, subtle look. If you're someone who likes a full-on blown pigment P. Louise cut crease, I don't know if you're going to like this. I was once that girl, but I do love these more like subtle eyeshadows in a way. Having said that, that doesn't mean that they are like not pigmented, because they are quite pigmented. Like the blacks still showed up pretty opaque in my opinion, and I've come to really appreciate that this year, and this palette just fits right into that. The one thing that I've noticed with this palette is just like the finish of all of them. Like I said before, they are incredibly smooth, and it's one thing that I just noticed when they are on my eyes. It is so smooth. Sometimes eyeshadow can really make your eyes look dry, and this has that emollience to it, like that little bit of wetness, that moistness as people hate to hear, but it has that like moistness to it. My nose is runny, so I'm sorry if it looks a little bit red. And then when we get to the shimmers, when I first swatched these shimmers, I was a little bit disappointed, I'm not gonna lie, but it was not the type of shimmer that I have also grown accustomed to. I am very much a heavy fan of my Glam Shop shimmery eyeshadows, which are very shimmery and highly reflective. And when I first just swatched this, I was like, oh, this is not gonna be it, this is not gonna be the same. But then I used them on the eyes, and I was actually pleasantly surprised by the amount of shine that they have. Like you can see it on my eyes as well. They are quite shimmery, they are very reflective, and they almost are on par with my Glam Shop eyeshadows. It's not the same obviously, but this has that a little bit more refined look to it. It's a little bit more sophisticated of a shimmer, but it is still quite shimmery, and it is still quite that intense kind of like reflectiveness that I love. So I was very pleasantly surprised by that as well. I think the luminous shade is beautiful. This is again this shade Supernova. I think that is so pretty, but also just like the metallic shade. Like when I swatch these on my hand, you're gonna be like, oh, that looks a little dull, but still, you know, like shimmery. When it comes to like the Vive 90s palette, I talked about mature shimmers, which are like flattering, but they don't really give me the shine that I want. And this is a mature shimmer in the finish, but like a stunning reflective shade at the same time, which again, I was very highly surprised by that. It is a palette that really pleasantly surprised me, and I'm very happy with that because it is quite an expensive palette, especially in these times of you know, inflation and stuff like that. I wanted to kind of give myself something special, and I feel like the Vega palette is definitely like special. You know, when I think of like luxurious eyeshadow palettes, I automatically think of Dior and Chanel, but I think this just goes way beyond that. I think this is so much better, and I definitely think it is a beautiful palette. Now we are going to create a little bit of this eyeshadow look, so I hope you enjoy it, and then you can actually see the eyeshadows in action. So let's go. So here we have the little palette, which is really cute, and then we have the inside. What I think I'm going to do today is just something very wearable, because this is the kind of palette that I want to be wearable on a daily basis. So we're going to go for a somewhat contoury, everyday slay look. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go in with the lightest shade in this palette, which is this one right here, and this is the shade French Gray, which is a velvet, and this is a very light shade, so I'm just throwing that into the crease, and I'm also putting that on the bridge of my nose in this hollow stuff right here, because as I said before, it's like a very light gray shade, so it's also great to kind of contour the shape of the eye. One thing that I've noticed, and this is probably because of that creamy aspect of the shadows, is that they seem to get a hard pan quite easily. Like with the shade French Gray, you can see that it almost has like a hard pan already. So that's the first shade. So we just have a very light color all over the crease and giving a slight definition to the eyes. Now we're going to create something a little bit more smoky. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to dip into this very lovely dark brown, and this is the shade Turbulence, and that is a seamless matte. And then we're going to go create a little bit of a liner like that. And this is going to be like the guideline for the slight smokiness that I'm gonna do. Having said that, I'm gonna go in with a different brush but the same shade. So this is a very small White Rose small pencil from Nabla, and again taking the shade Turbulence, and we're gonna kind of smudge this a little bit. Then I'm gonna take that same French gray shade that we used all up in the crease, and I'm gonna apply a little bit of that on the first part of the eyes, not the inner corners, but like first third, you could say. And with that, we're gonna kind of create a little bit of a halo shape in the center of the eye. It's gonna work really nicely when we apply the shimmers. So with a different liner brush, I am going to take the matte in this palette, and that is this shade right here, which is Lamp Black, which is also a seamless matte. Now the black is intense but buildable. I'm just gonna apply a very slightly a little bit of liner right here and right here, and then we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna blend that in ever so slightly, really keeping your movements close to where you want it to be. And then we're gonna move on to the shimmers. So first up, I'm gonna use this shimmer right here, which is Moon Swirl, and this is a metallic. I'm gonna use a brush for that, and we're gonna put that in the center of the eyeball. As a finishing topper, and this is probably my favorite shade in this palette apart from French Grey, is the shade Supernova, and that is a luminous shade. And I'm gonna put that on a teeny tiny brush and put that in the very center of the eyelids. As you can see, it has an immediate impact. I'm also going to take this shade in the inner corner of the eye and then dragging it up a little bit. And this is a beautiful shade. I absolutely love, love, love this shade. I'm gonna apply some mascara and we'll be right back with the end result. Okay, so mascara is on. I did reapply a little bit of my Painterly lipstick, and yeah, this is the finished look. It's a very soft, it's still very glam in a way. For Belgium, this is quite glam makeup. I love the way that this gives my eyes a subtle contour, a subtle lifted effect. And yeah, I think overall it's really beautiful. Everything else when it comes to the formula I have said before. And I think like French Grey and Supernova are like the two shades that I am going to use the most on a daily basis, just because they're really easy and it can give your eyes a little bit of a special look at the same time. Top lip is like completely red because my nose wouldn't stop running, so I was constantly like this. So that was basically my entire review of this beautiful palette by Lisa Eldridge, the Vega palette. If you are interested in this Lisa Eldridge palette, if you have the funds for it, if you want to save some money and buy it in the future, I really, really highly recommend it because I think it is a beautiful palette. It's well thought out. It's one of the better formulas, I'm not gonna lie, in my makeup collection, and I'm very, very happy with this. And I think in the future when I get a job and stuff like that, this is gonna be my favorite work palette as well. And that, guys, concludes my review of today's eyeshadow palette by Lisa Eldridge. I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I also want to know if you like picked up anything, whether it is like the eyeshadow palettes, her new lipstick, any of the eyeshadow singles, for example. Anyway, I need to stop rambling. You want to do something else after this video, so let's just shut it off. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!